Okay, so when the lights are a little bit dimmed, you know it's time to get going with a controlled still life. So that's what I'm going to be working on today. As you can tell from what I'm looking at here, I've got some objects and I don't know what to do. So I'm just going to start sort of drawing most of what I see, and then from there I will probably pare it back and try to figure out where to be best composed and what's going to be most engaging and interesting for me as the artist, but also potentially as what the viewer might be most interested in looking at. So I'm going to start drawing, and I also have this right here, which is my trusty viewfinder. You can obviously set it to more of a rectangular or a square orientation, and you can obviously hold it for the vertical or for the horizontal. But before I do that, I'm just going to start drawing like I did with the line drawing. A very quick thumbnail sketch to get an idea of what's in front of me and what I might want to crop down to be my actual drawing, which will end up being on a larger sheet of 18 by 24 paper. I fold this into quarters so that I have a smaller space to work on, and I might work on a couple different ideas as I go forward. So let's see what this looks like. Okay, so I have what I think is a really interesting composition. I've dialed it back. I've tried to identify where the lights and darks are for the composition. So now that when I use this as a reference, I'm not going to be using this as my source. I'll use this as something to begin to construct my larger work on the 18 by 24. I will lightly sketch with a number 2 pencil and then go back in with my 6B so I get the absolute black and the absolute white. So let's take a look at what it'll look like as I work through the drawing in that way. Okay, so here is my composition, and as I'm looking at my objects, I'm going very lightly with the number 2 pencil to sketch out everything I need, and now I'm digging in with my 6B pencil. And I'm working on the thing that I'm most interested in right now, which is that jug, and trying to find those root areas of the dark spaces and building those up and erasing when needed, and then trying to find what are the dominant shadows. And a lot of times with cloth, you're finding that shadows will often occur in triangles, and then filling in these spaces. Hopefully taking as much care with all the objects as you do with each other, so that not just the jug is treated well with the value, but also that the background is. If you were to leave the background unfinished or with less care in the way that you're shading it, that will show up in your ultimate drawing, and people and audience members will recognize that you did not care. So we want to make sure that nothing is left to chance, and we want to build this up. And I'm working through pretty systematically as I'm seeing different elements in the main still life that are engaging, and where I can find those small areas to try to identify lights and darks and transitions. So everything is either a transition from one value, whether black to white or gray to gray or black to gray or white to gray, or they are meeting up very hard, like on that skull area where it's the background, which is almost all black, coming up to the very, very light white of that skull. So those are the two ways that we can look to use value. There are no hard outlines unless it is an outline with a dark value. All the lines that you use to make up your composition are done lightly and then filled in and met with the value that corresponds with the object that you are drawing. So I'm just going to let this play out. It won't be too much longer. This drawing probably took me about 40 minutes, but it's a smaller version of what you're doing. You'll be taking a little bit more time to do yours. So let's see how this ends up.